Call this Plan Commission meeting to order. This meeting has been given notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call shows all members are present except for Chairman Walter and Commissioner Tarantino. A motion would be in order to appoint a chairman pro tem.
So moved. I'd move that we appoint David Baum.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to appoint Trustee Baum as chairman pro tem. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is public input and public appearance. Please be advised per section 19.84 parent 2 that information will be received from the public. However, no action will be taken at this time. Before I open it up to people in the audience, is there anybody online by chance?
Yeah, Paul Tegas is online.
Okay, Paul, you have something you'd like to bring to the panel?
No, I was just making my presence aware. I'm on the agenda.
Okay.
He's the last item.
All right, then I will read the one notice that we did get before 4 o'clock today. That comes from Tamara Schneider. To whom it may concern, I am once again writing to discuss our neighborhood's displeasure with the Plan Commission, with what the Plan Commission wants to do with the corner of Landon Road and County Line Road. While the removal of the business/industrial in the southwest corner of the area was appreciated by many, the sudden change of carving out a small area at this southwest corner and relabeling it Landon Gateway Neighborhood in the 13th hour was very underhanded. It is not the fact that you carved out the small area and named it, but that you want it to be comprised of multifamily housing with up to 10 units per acre. In fact, out of every neighborhood listed, the Landon Gateway is the only one where multifamily is listed as desirable. Given the fact that you probably can't squeeze 10 houses on 1 acre, I assume that you are again talking about large apartment complexes such as the previous Dickman facility, the Dickman fiduciary development that our neighborhood fought against. Responses to my previous letters have alleged that myself and others that have expressed concern only want single-family homes here. This is not true. While single-family homes are our preferred choice, any property that would be owner-occupied is what we want. We do not want rental properties. Townhouses and condos are fine, but then you listed residential 2 to 4 families as unacceptable. Single-family homes on smaller lots are fine. Senior living condos would be fine too. And that could be more units per acre. We just want people who have pride in ownership of their property. Last, you also list agricultural hobby farming as unacceptable. Oh, the irony, considering that is exactly what is there now. And since you don't seem to like to work with our neighborhood, I might as well mention that the desirable notation under open and recreational is great. We love that idea. That way you can go ahead and quickly change it to undesirable or just flat out label it out of the question. Thank you, Tammy Schneider. Anybody in the audience that would like to make public comment? Anybody? Nope, you're off now. Now you're on.
Now I'm on. Okay. Sorry about that. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. I'll be brief. At the village board budget meeting, the fire chief and police chief attempted to make presentations. They actually didn't get through them all completely. And if you haven't seen that presentation, the police are understaffed by about 4 and the fire department by about 12. which has ramifications for development, or in the case of development, because the more things that we build, the more things that need to be protected. And it occurred to me that with the DPW site being about to go under construction, somewhere over there would be a good place for a fire station. And I don't know if it's too late to maybe consider putting fire over there as part of that DPW site. I know there are issues with grades for roads, and there'd have to be separate roads more than likely. But some of the concerns of the fire chief were the back and forth and the cost of diesel, whereas pumper trucks and various other pieces of equipment, and just how much mileage they get. And it seems like it would be a natural to have something on the east side. So it's probably too late, as I said, but I think that's something that the Plan Commission should think about, along with Friedenberg Park, or not Friedenberg, what's the one up on Country Air? Yes, it is Frieden Park. Yeah. The one that wants to become this 24/7 athletic center, basically. There should be some consideration in land use for the parks that need to be added into the area. It was not something that was generally discussed during the planning process. I also attended the village board meeting where the 2050 plan was sent back to you for reconsideration tonight because residents' concerns matter. You just heard from one of the residents. And I encourage you to consider residents' concerns. The expectation is that there will be meetings with residents for Woodside, the Lannon Gateway, which is what that lady was talking about, and Isabel Farms, if and when developers come forward wanting to do something in those neighborhoods. The Plan Commission should ensure that those particular neighbors are directly notified rather than just only relying on website postings. As Director Retzlaff stated during that session, this new system of neighborhoods, districts, and corridors requires more responsibilities by this Plan Commission because it's more complicated, and it's more flexible when you're thinking through uses. However, there's also more potential pitfalls because of it, as we just heard from Ms. Schneider. So I just encourage you to think about the residents, and thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to come forward? Anything? There is no public hearing. Yeah, the only thing we won't talk about is virtuous development, item A on the agenda.
There's 2 public hearings, David.
And accurate survey, which is County Line Road and Mayflower Drive. Those are 2 our public hearings, which we will be able to talk about those 2 during those points. Okay. Anybody else on anything other than items A and B on the agenda? Seeing none, I will then move on to approval of minutes. We have a motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to unfinished business, which would be item A, Adam Knitzer, agent for Gale Foods and Beverages, and AGNL Dairy LLC, property owner, North 116 West 15970 Main Street, architecture and sign review. Action is required.
This item was before you at the last month's Plan Commission meeting. We talked about the concept that was approved for the northeast corner of Church Street and Main Street with the Gale Foods addition. This collage was before you last month. And generally, the Plan Commission provided feedback that it was too busy and that they liked the darker colors of the original concept. So the applicant has revised and has submitted this design for you for your review and consideration. The applicant is here this evening if you have any questions for them.
Commissioners? Comments, motion? Yes.
Just in general, I like it. I mean, it goes back to the first iteration that we saw last time with a little easier to get your eye on what's going on. And I like the differentiation of the color, or not the colors, the black and white and the color. So I'm for it. I'll move its approval.
We have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That will take us to item B, resolution number 03-2022 to revise resolution number 02-2022, approving the Village of Germantown 2050 Comprehensive Plan. Director Retzlaff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I get started, I just want to say I'm recovering from a cold, so if I'm a little difficult to understand, just feel free to raise your hand and I'll try and repeat or speak a lot louder. On September 26th, the Village Board considered the Plan Commission recommendation to adopt the 2050 Comprehensive Plan, the draft dated September 13th, 2022, that incorporated all of the revisions that the Plan Commission recommended be made to the plan. And on September 26th, the board adopted ordinance number 16-2022 to adopt the plan, subject to 3 additional revisions that they are sending back to the Plan Commission to effectively ratify, my word, before the plan becomes adopted. This based on guidance from the village attorney, based on some interpretive principles of statute 66-1001, that effectively are that one, neither the village board nor the Plan Commission has the unilateral authority to adopt or amend a comprehensive plan, that a village board can only adopt a comprehensive plan or amendment after a favorable vote and recommendation by the Plan Commission. A village board cannot make changes to a comprehensive plan or amendment thereto once it has received a favorable vote and recommendation by the Plan Commission, except for non-substantive technical changes. And it's for that reason that the board is sending it back to the Plan Commission. The changes they thought were beyond just technical changes, that they were significant and they should go back to the Plan Commission for ratification. Once having received a favorable vote and recommendation by the Plan Commission, the village board can accept the comprehensive plan or reject the comprehensive plan or refer the plan or amendment back to the Plan Commission with a request that the plan be revised, presumably in a manner suitable that the board would like to see. And that's effectively what's been done. There are 3 changes that the board is sending back to the Plan Commission. Revision number 1, to revise the Holy Hill Gateway District in the Isabel Farms neighborhood that was adopted to remove approximately 80 acres of land in the southeast corner of Goldendale at Holy Hill Road intersection, remove it from the Holy Hill Gateway District and put it back into the Isabel Farms neighborhood. This effectively reverses what the Plan Commission did as part of its recommended adopted plan. This was what the Plan Commission adopted, adding the area in, and the village board wants to take it back out. The second revision is to accept and incorporate text revisions on page 145 of the housing section regarding Washington County's Next Generation Housing Initiative requested by Washington County staff. I've got them up on the screen. If we want, we can read through them, but they're effectively some wordsmithing, some fact checking, and some status updating to various words in that section of the housing code. that the board felt were suitable to add or revise in the plan. The third revision is to modify the future land use map and text for the Holy Hill Gateway District to indicate the area bounded by US 41 on the west, Rockfield Road on the south, Goldendale Road on the east, and the Woodside neighborhood on the north to remain under the agricultural slash conservation residential designation of the former 2020 plan until a detailed master plan has been completed and adopted. How we are handling this, what we've done is we are calling out this area in the map and in the text. We're referring to it as the provisional land use area with notations that refer back to page 101 of the plan, specifically the Holy Hill Gateway District profile that indicates under the heading Master Planning, a detailed master plan will be developed for the Holy Hill Gateway District. See Implementation Plan Economic Development Objective Number 1. Until the master plan is prepared and incorporated into the future land use component of the 2050 comprehensive plan, the preferred land uses allowed in and future development of the area bounded by in this preferred or provisional land use area shall be limited to only the land uses and development allowed under the agricultural conservation residential land use designation in the former 2020 comprehensive plan as shown on the future land use map. The agricultural conservation residential designation allows agricultural uses and single-family residential uses with a maximum density and minimum lot size of 1 dwelling per 5 acres. So we've called it out on the map, in the text, in a number of places, not just the profile pages for the Holy Hill Gateway District, but throughout the plan. And that's what we'll go by until the master plan is prepared and presented for incorporation into the 2050 plan. With that, the resolution 03-2022 has been prepared for the Plan Commission. With that, you can ratify these 3 revisions recommended by the village board, and they'll be incorporated into the 2050 plan prior to us publishing a final document.
Thank you, Director Retzloff. Commissioners, comments, questions, motions? I have one question. Director Retzloff, what did we end up doing with Lannon and County Line? We were leaving it as we shifted it. We were going back to something prior.
No, we were leaving it as the Plan Commission recommended. We created a new neighborhood that has residential development as a preferred allowable and uses, and also with the same detailed master plan provision that applies to all of the districts, neighborhoods, districts, and corridors.
Right. Commissioners.
A question. So this is a ratification, so it's all or nothing?
No, you can make whatever comments you want. The village board just said they would prefer to have it this way. They approved it pending Plan Commission's approval. So if we just want to approve it, then it's approved. If you want to modify something, then we can discuss any modifications that you want.
Okay, thank you. One question I had, I guess, was on an attachment B, the wordsmithing to the next generation housing. What was the purpose of that? I just found it curious. I know it matches their website a little bit better, but was there something incorrect in here? Was the ARPA not responsible for giving the county $10 million, et cetera?
Well, the county provided these comments after the public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So the board had the option of basically saying, you know, it's too late. We're not going to consider the changes. Or we're going to just make partial changes. In reading through them, at least in my opinion, they're minor. They don't really change the intent. They just simply improve the update of the information, and it's more factual in terms of some of the specific facts that they want changed. For example, the amount of money that's available to the Village of Germantown for startup funds. You know, using the word attainable and versus affordable, that's one of the wordsmithing things that they would prefer us use.
Well, and that's some of the stuff like they've got the word in there twice, barriers, right? And to me, a barrier is something that is put forth to prevent homeownership, whereas I just see this a challenge. You know, the Federal Reserve creates a ton of money, causes asset inflation, and now homes are expensive. And so is that a barrier or is that a challenge? I mean, again, some of the wordsmithing I found curious. It wasn't. I didn't fall in love with it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't really
Okay.
speak to whether it changes the intent.
Yeah,
whether you wanna put
exactly.
Barriers or challenges in there. But this is what the county has come back with. This is the way the county wanted it written. We were adapting this into our language. So.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Mr. Nellis.
Just another very minor grammatical or spelling thing. The middle of the paragraph that starts with the Village of Germantown is a participating municipality, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The word sites is misspelled. It's the 5th line down. From a lengthy list of potential development sites scattered throughout the county. So if we're going to go through it, I just want to make sure that that's corrected in the final version.
Thank you.
I also had one question.
Yes, sir.
The year change, was that correcting a typo or are they just getting less aggressive in terms of the program? I mean, they were supposed to have 1,000 new homes by 2023 and it's going to be 2032 instead. Was it just a typo in our write-up or is that actually just a change in the program?
This is wording coming from the people who are running the program. So it's, we're simply respecting their request to include what they consider to be more factual information about their program and its goals.
I believe they had a typo in calling it 2023.
Okay,
So they have changed it to 2032.
understand.
Give them more time to get that 1,000. I think when are we predicted to have 3,500 more homes in the village by 2035? Is that the date that's in the 2050 plan?
I thought it was 2050.
2050? I'd have to look at the whole plan, but yes. We're all expecting a big groundswell of residential. Yes, sir.
Not much to comment on. I don't have any problem with any one of the three here. The first one, I kind of think we discussed that line earlier on and moved it back and forth, you know, along with Holy Hill Road. So I don't have any problem with that. The language here seems like it's two different ways to say the same thing. As you said, wordsmithing. The other one, I don't really have a feeling either way about item 3. But anyway, those other two, I want to comment on that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I will make a motion that we approve the, how are we wording it? The resolution 03/2022?
Approving motion to
Recommendations
approve
from the village
resolution
board.
number 03-2022 as presented would be the motion.
That's it. That's what I was going to say.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Willems? Any further? Yes, no?
I was just saying I was second.
Okay. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That will bring us on to first order of new business, which is item A, Virtuous Development LLC. Let me get to that section. Okay, Greg Nagel, President of Virtus Development and agent for District 1 LLC, property owner, And the Hacker Trust property owner is requesting approval of a rezoning application to amend and expand the Kuberg Planned Development Zoning District located at the southwest corner of Donges Bay Road and Fond du Lac Avenue intersection, and a revised general development plan to add parking, stormwater management, and a 6-unit multifamily apartment residential building. 6-unit multifamily residential building. Director Retzloff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start off with a few comments, then I'm going to turn it over to a representative for the developer, and then I'll come back and wrap up a summary of the staff report and recommendation, and then we'll go to the public hearing. The Kuberg Planned Development District was created in 2018 to stimulate the renovation of 2 parcels and existing buildings located in the southwest corner of the intersection of Donges Bay and Fond du Lac Avenue. The area subject to the Kuberg PDD is highlighted in yellow on the screen. Those 2 parcels included a single-story schoolhouse and a 2-story tavern renovated into a coffee shop and restaurant. To date, renovation of the schoolhouse into the Stone Creek Coffee House is complete. And it's operational, along with the reconstruction of the parking lot west of the buildings. Remaining improvements include construction of a covered portico between the 2 buildings, providing seasonal outdoor seating for both the coffee house and the planned renovation of the existing Gamroth's Kuberg Junction Tavern. At this time, the developer is proposing to rezone and add 2 parcels to the planned development district. Those 2 parcels are highlighted in red on the screen. And as part of that, to revise the general development plan to include a 33-stall parking lot, a 6-unit residential townhouse-style building, and stormwater management facility serving both developments. With that, Greg Nagel, if you want to come forward, and we've got your slides lined up for you.
Does it work? Doesn't work? Okay, okay. Is it on? Okay. Hi, I'm Greg Nagel, President of Virtus Development. So to recap, let's see. On the screen actually is a exhibit we intended to show. So as Jeff referenced, at the Plan Commission meeting in 2018, we presented and discussed our intent to demolish the existing home to the south of the tavern to create additional parking. The plan was to create 25 spaces on the parcel that would consist of the existing schoolhouse and tavern parcels after they were joined together through CSM, and then create an additional 35 spaces on the adjacent home parcel for a total of approximately 60 parking spaces. The plan that's being shown is what was shown and what was included on the as part of the Plan Commission approval as a conceptual part of that plan. So, I think there was significant discussion at that Plan Commission meeting regarding how many spaces would totally be created. There was some concern as to whether or not we would be able to create enough spaces, and I believe the number of 60 spaces was discussed. So with that intent, obviously, we need to create that parking in order to continue with the development of the restaurant. So after the delay due to COVID, we obtained financing. We completed the infrastructure improvements, the lot improvements, and the renovation of the cafe, which has been operational since late last year. Then we prepared to obtain approval to add the home parcel to the PDD through CSM. And we prepared a parking lot plan in keeping with the original intent and count, also considering stormwater requirements. If you could go to the next slide. So this was the plan as we had created. So we were able to maintain 35 parking stalls
and create a retention area to the south of the lot. So it met essentially all of our goals and requirements that we were attempting to meet for the both the parking count and the retention of stormwater. Around that time, late last year, early this year, we were contacted through the broker by the original owners of the parcel in discussion, as they had it on the market for quite a while at that point, to inform us they had the parcel available for sale and to see if we had any interest in incorporating it into our development. And we informed them as a courtesy, we would definitely look at that, especially since we saw that it could be an instrumental piece of the development in terms of a transition from the commercial to the residential. So we met with Jeff and Emily earlier this spring to discuss that possibility, as well as looking at the parking lot design, at which time we proposed a 4 to 6 unit townhome as an intentional transition between the commercial and the single family homes to the south. From what I recall, Jeff was open to the concept of the townhomes, but expressed concern with the landscaping on the proposed lot. His suggestion was to move the detention area potentially into that residential lot and incorporate that into the design, as well as look at angled parking as a way to perhaps condense the parking itself so as to increase the landscape areas around the edges. We looked at that area. Then historically and through the newly created but not yet adopted 2050 comprehensive plan, obviously, which you guys took action on just before that, specifically referencing the Victory Center corridor. So we go to the next slide. So as you can see in the comprehensive plan, most of the areas, obviously the green is all rural preservation. The yellow areas are all residential subdivisions. The purple are industrial areas. And so really you're left with the red and blue areas as really areas of focus for maybe more intense development within the village. So next slide. And specifically looking at the area of Victory Center corridor, this is a blow up of that roundabout. And the southwest corner obviously is where the subject properties are. And you can see that the parcels in discussion here tonight comprise mostly that southwest corner of that area. So we're really talking about, I think, in the context of significant, in this corridor, kind of a significant development here in terms of trying to get this completed. We need to get the parking lot done. Something is going to happen on that vacant lot. It's highly unlikely it's going to be single family housing from what the current owner believes. And so what we believe we propose is something of interest. So if we can go to the next slide. This is a historical photo of that area. So you can see the schoolhouse to the north, the tavern, as well as a service station wedged in between the house and the tavern. We didn't create the mixed use. This mixed use has been here for over 100 years. So we're basically taking what's there, this context that's there, and working within it. We've put over $1 million so far into the development to revise the infrastructure and create a public space that we believe, and we've received a lot of comment on, is an attractive and welcome use within the community. We're trying to figure out is how do we finish this and how do we cap the south end of it? That's really what we're talking about here tonight. So if we can go to the next slide. So looking at within the plan itself, if we look at the Victory Center corridor, it really references traditional neighborhood design. And there's a specific definition for it in the 2050 plan, which really speaks to areas of higher density, areas of mixed use, and basically looking at these things in close proximity to one another. It's really what the crux of traditional neighborhood design is. So if we go to the next plan, or the next, so again, here's the chart, and it talks about desired uses, again, referencing traditional neighborhood design as a desired use or desired design outcome. and multifamily, as well as other commercial uses as the allowable or desirable uses. Next slide. So if we look at, you know, how do we look at traditional neighborhood design, particularly in Germantown? This is an area that was actually just up for discussion on one of the previous matters. This is downtown Germantown. This is Gale, which is right next to bars and restaurants, businesses, single-family homes, everything in very close proximity to one another, with lots as small as 0.15 acres, all the way up to about half-acre lots. So you have, and there's little or no buffer between everything. Yet somehow it manages to be there, to exist, and everything coexists. So these are some of the views of the homes. This is provided to provide some context for the design as presented. There was a comment in the staff comments about that we jacked the house up to basically to accommodate parking. Actually, the contrary, the home was designed with an elevated first floor and a porch in keeping with traditional neighborhood design. And it provides actually a unique opportunity to tuck the parking underneath the home. It's because if you go through any area pre-World War II, you don't see garages out in the front of homes. That's traditional design. So we're trying to replicate that by tucking the garages for the homes underneath the homes, rather than having them front and center. And quite honestly, we're trying to preserve the backyard area in this lot. We thought it was an attractive amenity for the neighborhood and for the residents in the units themselves to actually have some green space in the backyard. So if we go to the next slide. So this is the design as presented, as Jeff had shown the slide before. We've got our 35 spaces using angled parking. We've got what I believe is ample landscape space around there. Does it meet all the conditions for current zoning? No. But as far as I understand with the 2050 plan, current zoning is going to be going away. And not only that, but with the introduction of a planned development here, we have the ability to create what we want and have the language of the PDD match what we're creating and not let the tail wag the dog. So that's really what's at stake here. So the units are stacked facing the north so as to create kind of an internal court. And they're in the east side of the lot so that they face the parking and keeping the west side of the lot more as green space. There is a detention area that's intentionally, as we discussed earlier, was intentionally moved there. So it's a detention area for the parking to the north as well as that lot. But from what I recall from the Plan Commission meeting 4 years ago, there's some water issues in that part of the neighborhood. So part of the intent was if we create this back here, it will most likely help alleviate some of those water issues by giving the water a place to go and a place to migrate into the stormwater system. So there's a lot of small details that are incorporated into this beyond just what looks, what you can see from looking at it. And the intent is really to create a new, hopefully attractive style of housing in this area that can attract young professionals or even some older folks who are looking for something a little different. I actually had one of my former colleagues that worked for me lives in one of the other apartment buildings here in Germantown. And quite honestly, he said, if you're able to put something like this up here, I would love to rent that, or buy it, however you guys are going to present that, because he likes Germantown. He just doesn't like some of the housing options that are available, just as a case in point. So, whether the townhomes go or not, quite honestly, I'd love to see it go. If it doesn't go and it stays an empty lot, I guess the current homeowner has a problem to deal with on their hands. But nonetheless, we need the parking to be done. And then somebody's going to have to deal with that lot in the future. And what is that going to be? Right. So I guess that's my thoughts about it. I'm trying to do this basically more as a gesture toward the village and toward the current homeowner we didn't come into it, as you said, with the intent to do this originally. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Picking up where Greg left off, here's the proposed landscape plan for the site. And as you can see, the landscaping is, in addition to what's existing, is quite extensive. That's proposed. Given the relative narrow distances between parking lots and buildings and property lines and the like, with the stormwater basin as well, on the west side of the parcel, it forces the residential dwellings closer into the front of the site and closer to the single-family residential development to the south, the existing residential units. Couple of renderings that were provided. This is a view from the southeast looking northwest across the driveway and the shared driveway and the parking area on the south side of the buildings. The south elevation, 6 units total, 2-story with an exposed basement drive-under garage. So the view from the south, as you can see here, would effectively be 3 stories. Each unit having 1,400 square feet with 2 bedrooms and 2.5 baths, a rear deck and a front walk-up stairway. The rear deck on the south side above the garage entry as shown here. And a walk-up stairway on the opposite side, the north side of the building. Again, a shared driveway. Each of the units has, again, a 2-car garage, a front to back arrangement, and 2 floors of living space. And the north elevation with the stairways, again, this would be the elevation facing the proposed parking lot to the north. The west elevation and the east, and the other rendering, a view from the northeast looking southwest across on the right side of the front or the north side of the building. Again, the site location for proximity in the Victory Center corridor, as Greg pointed out. I've highlighted it here. And as Greg pointed out, the preferred land uses do include multifamily up to 10 units per acre, and this proposal fits under those general parameters. Just for reference, the old 2020 plan shows the northern portion of this area in the former commercial designated area. Coburg District is a B3 general business plan development district. Essentially a B3 district with some reduced requirements for setbacks, parking, and the like. Again, it was done in order to accommodate the proposed redevelopment of the school and the tavern sites. And it was a project that was well received by the village. With regard to this particular proposal, a potential parking lot addition, as Greg pointed out, was part of the original PDD, the details of which were to be worked out at a later date now, with respect to the arrangement, the number of stalls, landscaping, and the like, and attachment of the property. A CSM would be required to combine the parking area with the commercial building parcel, or an alternative is to have an off-site parking site that would be subject to a conditional use permit. I don't know if that's an option that the developer is pursuing, but likely the CSM approach would be required. Both the plan development text and boundary would need to be revised if a residential component is added. As I mentioned, it's a modified B3 general business district PDD. It doesn't provide for residential uses, so we would have to deal with that specifically, add in what residential uses we would like. Arguably, the RM3, our 10 unit per acre residential multifamily district, is the closest multifamily district under the existing zoning code that we have, that we could use as a base from which to work and modify to adjust the setbacks as the Plan Commission would feel are appropriate to allow for residential development. My only concern is that the original PDD that was created, the B3, was created with the intention of accommodating, even hastening, if you will, the redevelopment of the school and the tavern properties by relaxing the restrictions that dealt with parking and setbacks and the like. And I don't know if it's appropriate to simply take that same set of relaxed requirements and apply it now to additional development further south as we get closer to a little bit more space, other existing uses that are incompatible, existing single-family residential. So we need to, I think we should approach that a little bit more gingerly as we develop whatever bulk requirements we might create for this particular PDD if a residential component is to be added. As I mentioned, the proposed rezoning and the PDD amendments are consistent with the general land use and density parameters of the 2050 plan for the Victory Center corridor. And it closely matches up with the RM3 district, except for lot area, lot width, setbacks, and a few other components that we could easily adjust accordingly. But at this time, as I indicated in the staff report, I do not support the residential component as it's currently proposed. It's a tough one for me because this is exactly what we want to see in these sorts of infill type spaces adjacent to our commercial activity locations. In this case, however, I just feel that the parcel is too narrow and in the area provided is too small, particularly with that storm basin that serves a more neighborhood type purpose in the back. It doesn't leave a lot of space to provide, for example, the typical parking in the rear of a traditional neighborhood design. I think putting the parking underneath elevates the building to a height that is not traditional, certainly for this neighborhood. And it just seems a bit out of place as close as it is, less than 30 feet, 35 feet from the existing single-family residential to the south. So I like the idea. I think we should continue to explore it. It's got to be a way to try and bring it down in terms of the height and or the density if that's what it takes. But I think it's worth exploring a residential component. But at this point, staff is recommending tabling action on at least including a residential component. Parking, absolutely, we do support the parking. It's what we had hoped for as far as adding additional parking to serve the commercial buildings. So with that, we can go to public hearing.
On that, notice is hereby given that the public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located at North 112 West 17001 Mequon Road, Germantown, Wisconsin, on the following date, Monday, October 10th, 6:30 p.m. or later. The purpose of said hearing is to hear all parties, their attorneys or agents for or against the following application. 2, 1, rezone parcel 1 from B3 General Business District to parcel 2 from an RS6 Single Family Residential Zoning District to the B3 PDD Coburg Junk District Plan Development District. And 2, amend the General Development Plan for the Coburg District Plan Development District, Resolution number 16-2018, to include the expansion of the business, parking, and multifamily development. Applicant Vertus Development, agent for District 1, and Robert and Mary Elizabeth Hacker, trust property owners. Anybody wishing to come forward to talk on this? Please come forward now. Yep.
Hi. Yeah, my name is John Figge and I'm own the property not directly to the south, but the next property to the south. So with long driveway, right? So, and, I've spoke to, the neighbors. I think we're generally not in favor of the parcel 2 rezone for a number of reasons. But before I state those, I do have just one question. Can I ask?
Sure.
So it was shown on this 2050 plan, this yellow and blue proposed zoning. And if you look at that, that zoning map, it shows the blue section, which currently there's 2 of those properties are single family properties. So is the plan then that those would become some other thing that that you'd be pushing those owners out? Or is that a mistake on that map?
No, the intent of the blue was to recognize that that section of roadway is a hodgepodge of all kinds of different things. It's
Okay.
single family road, it's got some industrial on it, it's got some multifamily on it, it's got businesses on it.
Sure.
This blue section that we put on here encompasses all of that and allows for all of that.
My point is that like this.
No, that, I wouldn't say that's a big deal.
Okay. I'll state my reasons why we're opposed to it. Well, first of all, we also think the lot is too small because if you look at most, multifamily developments around this area, I know that there's probably exceptions, but at least of all the newer ones, typically there's some kind of feature built around those properties to kind of block the view, especially if they're next to single family residential areas. So, either there's a hill or there's some trees or there's some kind of feature that's designed in to block that view. And this lot is so small that I don't think you can accommodate anything that would block the view. Especially looking from the south to the north, you'd see that 3-story high building and there's nothing there. So that's one reason. Another reason, we're not sure if, with the setbacks, what's allowed and what isn't allowed. The proposal showed like a 12.5-foot setback, which is considerably smaller than what it would be for a normal residential setback, I believe, for a single family.
Mhm.
So that puts that development very close to the other properties. And so is it really realistic that you can come in there, make that right angle turn and go in? I know that turning radiuses of cars, they can turn that sharp, but not every car can turn that sharp. So it limits, who could or what kind of car you could actually have and drive into that structure, I believe. The other thing is that currently, that property with the multifamily unit, it's surrounded by 3 other properties that are single-family residential property right now. And so to change that from single-family residential, kind of makes it an island surrounded by single-family. It doesn't seem appropriate to me to do that. Retention pond, yeah, I understand why we want to do those. But I don't know that we want that in our backyard. I mean, they attract geese, mosquitoes, not desirable if you live next to it, maybe. Right? As far as the, the value to the current owners, I understand that they're trying to maximize what they can get for that property. But, I think that, these things were all considered when the first proposal was made and, when the property was first attained. So I guess we don't like the idea of just changing something from single-family residential to multifamily because everyone that bought property around that bought it, understanding what was there as far as zoning. And to just go and change that doesn't really seem fair to us. So I think that's all my points. Yeah, so really that's our concerns.
Can I ask you a clarifying question?
Sure.
You have a problem with the parking lot?
Do I have what?
A problem with the parking lot?
No.
Parking lot, you don't have a problem with, it's just the townhouse development, that lot that you have a problem with.
Yes, the lot 2.
Okay,
Mhm.
I just want to clarify.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Any further comments? Please state your name and address.
David LaYave, and I own the property at 10259 Fond du Lac Avenue.
Thank you.
That's the second house from the Sunbury entrance
Okay.
into the subdivision.
Sure.
Well, I do have a problem with the 6-family. I don't know if they proposed like for guest parking. I know they have the underground parking, but if the guests come to their house, are they proposing enough parking for that?
I don't see any currently on the plan.
I didn't think so. So are they gonna park in the Cooper's parking lot? That would be a problem. I don't have a problem with the Cooper's lot being expanded, because it's necessary for what they proposed there. But I do have a problem with the 6-family,
Okay.
and the underground piping and the house being built up higher than all the other houses there, all the other buildings and stuff.
Okay.
I do see a problem with that. I mean, I personally have 1.4 acres there on my lot. And what, am I gonna be allowed to put a 6-family there? I don't think they will allow that.
You have to bring something forward and we'd have to talk about it.
I don't think anybody would enjoy that.
And then you'd have all your neighbors here again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
All right, William Junker. I'm at N101 W14230 Sunbury Road. We're just a little bit south in that subdivision, and I mean, I just feel like that's all really tight space to be fitting. Well, it's like we're in Philadelphia and going to build buildings taller to squeeze something on a small, when all the other homes there have we have property requirements of having so much area, so much yard. And I think too, like the gentleman was saying, well, this is for like seniors. Well, last I checked, seniors don't want to get a lot of stairs, and this is creating a lot of stairs and other things like that. So I don't think that's really the purpose that these would be built for. I think we have a soccer fields just south of there. I mean, I'd love to wait to see what type of development we can build to help the soccer fields down there with all the people coming in, and there might be other uses we can use that stuff for. I see all these families spending all day there. Maybe there's another use we can use that land for to help that development down there. And the parking, like the other gentleman said, I mean, these places, a 6 place like this is going to have guests. Are they going to be parking in our neighborhoods and walking? And it's not, quite frankly, the best road to be walking on Fond du Lac Avenue there, up and down. You already see it with the soccer fields and everything like that. So I just think while the parking is necessary up there if the development goes forward, I think the fitting those homes on there is just, there needs to be a lot more thought into that before how we want to use it in general. I think we can use it a lot better than when we have some apartment buildings just north on the west side up there as well. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
My name's Adam Gratz, N104 W14085 Donges Bay Road. So, we're in the house. And we originally purchased this back in August last year. And our sole purpose for moving out here was not to be around multifamily houses. We passed up 4 or 5 very good homes that were next to apartment buildings. We came out here for the peace, the quiet, and the trees. So we're going to lose probably 75% of the trees, our quiet, our privacy. We're going to have a 3-story building towering over our property, people looking into our houses, and we do not feel comfortable with that. Not to mention, it's going to just, what is it going to do to our property values and resale value when we try to move? It's trying to sell with this large building that's jammed between 2 property lines. 2 is, what about the house to the south? That building is going to be literally on top of that house. I mean, I don't know the owners, but I can't imagine they're too thrilled about that either, with cars mere feet pulling in and out next to that house there. I completely opposed to the 6 family.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for your comments.
Evening, Brian Depius, W143N9867 Ridgewood Lane in Germantown. I live about 1 mile southwest of this project. So my background, I lived in the village for 20 years. I'm on Park and Rec Committee for the last 15 years. From time to time chaired that committee. Active in the community. My background has been 30 years in land use, zoning, development. I do zoning administration for Town of Erin. I do land development projects, actually working on the first next generation housing initiative up in Village Jackson. So we're dealing with these issues every day of how are we going to get housing, how are we going to get more housing, how are we going to get a variety of housing. I am a proponent of promoting density where it makes sense in the Village of Germantown, where we have sewer, water, and the capabilities of providing higher density. Recently, over the last couple of years, I've come to some meetings and objected because we're not creating enough density in some areas to objections by many citizens. So I try to put my lens on and come at this from a land use perspective, a long-term perspective. We're talking about a 2050 plan. No one is being forced out of their home. No one's being forced to change their zoning. But long-term, we have to look at what's best for the community and for the cost of services, because every day we do not promote residential development or densities where it should be promoted. It simply pushes residents further out, increases tax base. It's not the efficient use of land. So I've known Greg Nagel from Virtuous Development for, probably several years now. I remember when he first proposed the idea to me that he was going to work on the coffee house and Colbert Junction. I said, great, good vision, but I work in a world of vision, concept, reality. Vision is great and good. Concepts are tough, but going from a concept to a reality really takes some heavy lifting, let's say. So when I saw Greg move forward with that project and what he went through in COVID and see that old stone house that I think many people thought would be torn down come to fruition, it definitely shows you have an individual that has a vested interest in this community. That's very important when you're looking at projects like this, because dollars and cents matter in the business world. Sometimes they may not make the most perfect sense, and when you have that passion for it, you continue to push forward, do the right thing. When Greg proposed and asked my opinion of doing a townhouse type project on this site, I was in favor of it, and I'm still in favor of it for several reasons. Number one, as I indicated earlier, and what you had on the agenda tonight, the next generation housing. They're trying to hit housing needs of the 75% in the 300,000 range, 25% in 400,000 range. And as ridiculous as that still sounds to me and probably many people when you look at what you paid for your house, it is next to impossible to hit some of those numbers in today's market. So to propose this type of development in this area, and if you go to the air photo I think you were showing before, the surrounding land uses are this. There was a large industrial type building put to the west, 30-ish feet tall. It's bound by State Highway 145, Fond du Lac Avenue. If you've been a patron of the coffee shop, sat outside at all, it is an extremely heavily traveled highway corridor, roadway corridor, lots of noise from the trucks coming through that area. To the north, you're now going to be bound by a parking lot that Greg has every intention of putting a restaurant in there. And if he puts a restaurant in there, he wants it to be successful. There will be cars coming in. There will be lights shining to the south. There will be a lot of traffic. It is a commercial area. It's a designated area to be commercial on that corner. And that parking lot is a need if that business is to thrive and expand. To the east of that, yes, you have 2 residential houses. You have a large use in that church, but you do have green space to the west of their retention area, which is owned by the church. So you have some green space back there. And then to the south, you do have a single-family residential unit. That residential unit has a long driveway coming in and a garage on the north side. So living unit to living unit, when I measured it out on the GIS system, from that person's living unit to these buildings, it's about 80 feet. Now, once again, there's going to be a large parking lot coming in through there. It'll be adjacent to another driveway parking area to the south in that area. If you expand, Emily, if you go to the 2050 plan for this area, you'll notice there is not a significant number of parcels between essentially in this south, not a significant number of parcels before you get to the next major street corridor. And while even in the 2050 plan there, they show it as single family residential, I think this State Highway 145 corridor is going to transition and needs to transition. If, you know, I look at this and say, if not this, and I think Greg was alluding to this, what other use would go there? Who is going to put a single family residence on that parcel and pay any dollar amount to put $400,000 into a new home on that property? I think it's going to be difficult, and you do have an opportunity to work with one local owner, developer on this project and kind of work through some of these, maybe some of these difficulties. I like the idea on these 4 families and 6 families. The toughest units to sell are always the interior units. I like the aspect that it has a southern exposure, and that's really their little patio area outdoors rather than on the north side. I think on the north side, you can work through some of that parking situation and shared use spaces. It can be worked out. These are what I think are minor details, and Mr. Retzloff, I appreciate your comments that you struggled with this because it is what you want to promote moving forward. And I guess what else can go here? They're proposing a building that's going to be between probably $1.5 million and $2 million of assessed value. No home is ever going to be put there to that level. If this project does not move forward in this format, it's going to be difficult to see how this could potentially move forward. I think you have a developer here that's vested in this corner, in this community. He would do right by the neighbors and work with them as much as possible. I understand the neighbors' concerns, but this is long-term, long vision, and I agree with the plan that's proposed before the Plan Commission today. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to come forward for public comment? No? Yes, sir. Hello. Mr. Nagel.
So as alluded to, the guest parking, as we expected, as Brian alluded to, would really be shared parking in the parking lot. So you've got 6 units. I don't anticipate there being, you know, hundreds of guests coming to 6 units there. I mean, you're probably talking about a few people visiting on rare occasion. Number one. Number two, in terms of turning distances into there, it's a 22-foot wide aisle, which if you look at the parking lot to the north, it's a 22-foot wide aisle. It's essentially the same design. I watch people pull into my parking lot behind the cafe and Kuberg's with big trucks, and they have no problem getting themselves in and out of those parking stalls. So I don't expect, you're not going to have a Prius to get in and out of the unit. So let's just be clear about that. This is a detention pond. It was colored blue, I think, just for sake of clarity. So the difference between a detention and a retention pond stays wet. It retains water. A detention pond is an area to detain water until it dissipates. So again, this is not going to be a permanently wet pond area. Let's just be clear about that, right? Another point is we've already, I would probably suspect, in talking to some of our neighbors around there, especially the ones directly to the west of ours, is we've been probably improving property values through the work that we've done and the investments we've made in the area, not detracted from property values. So again, this, as alluded to, there is a great mix of uses on this corridor. And so what I'd propose to do here, I think would actually improve property values when it's all said and done. So with that, I think I just wanted to clarify some of those things that were brought up.
Thank you. Anybody else?
This is Jan Miller. I'm online.
Hold on, Jan, we got people here still.
When I
Okay.
saw the pictures of the apartment complex, I believe it was a front car in front, car behind.
Yes.
And to me, like if I'm living there and I need to get the front car out, where am I going to pull the car out to get the other car out? That 145 is super busy. Where am I pulling cars in and out with the front? I don't think that's the best design for something like that. I think there can be a much better thought out system. So something that's, like I said, high up and down. And again, this like, I think there needs to be more thought put into it than what has been put into this thing. I mean, it's they're trying to fit this little space that we have left, throw this money-making opportunity and throw it out there without thinking about the best needs for that area. There might be something that's much better for this area than another apartment complex. So.
Okay, thank you. I'll give you one more shot.
Yeah, when you turn into an angle spot, it's a lot easier than when you have to make a complete right angle turn. And if you've got a pickup truck, I think it's going to be really difficult to get it through that 8-foot door without scratching it. But so my concern is that I think there's some things about the plan, just as was just pointed out, that aren't realistic and it's going to change. And so what are we really going to get? I think before anything's approved, we would have to have a much better understanding of what's going to go in there. And I'm still concerned about, how the view of the, the undesirable side of those apartments or buildings is going to be facing to the south. And there's nothing that really blocks that view. I imagine, garbage containers, recycle containers, standing outside by all those doors and, and other things like that.
All the things we have to figure out.
Right. So, before, we jump ahead with something, I think that it'd have to be a lot more realistic than this. Let's not propose something that looks nice and then say, oh yeah, that looks great, we'll go with it. And then they slowly start changing it as they move along and figure things out.
Right.
I don't think we should do that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Jan, Trustee Miller, you had a comment?
Yes, thank you. I live at W151 and 10297 Windsong Circle West, which is off of Donges Bay. And I think the development that Greg has put together with the coffee shop and proposed restaurant and the parking lot is great. One of the things that I keep hearing in development is protecting the property values. I would be in favor of the multifamily only if it's owner occupied. And I think that I know it's what I have been hearing time and time again from residents in the area. I don't think you're going to get a single family dwelling in that location because of the other development in there. So I think it's a good concept. I would also like something like a duplex or only 4 units in that space and see what that looks like as well. but I think it's a good step forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none? I'll call the public hearing to order or close. Okay, then that goes to commissioners. We have a recommendation from the staff. Questions, comments, motions?
What do you propose to do if if we delay it? I mean, is there some other things you're looking for? I didn't understand really.
Well, I guess I'm looking for feedback from the plan commission.
Well, then
on how to proceed.
I could say then, maybe we need to look at these 6 units. I can't give you any suggestions, but they really are awfully tall and I don't know an option there. So maybe what we need to look at some options on how to do all this. I don't think we're there tonight. So I would move that we postpone this, table it for tonight.
Table means no discussion?
No, I guess defer action with some direction.
Yeah, that's what we,
Okay, we could do that, but
we want to have some discussion to give them direction on where to go to.
fair enough.
Anybody else before I start yakking? Commissioner Lashinsky.
Listening to this, I do like the idea, I guess, of the transition between the single family around it and that, I guess, the busier commercial development near the traffic circle. I would agree with some of the comments that it's just, it seems tight right there with some of the parking issues, with some of the setbacks on the south side, the north side. The height, yes, I think it's probably a bit high. It's hard for me to visualize it just sitting here. I mean, I look at that picture, I said, yeah, that's pretty tall. But at the end of the day, I think there's something to work with there. I just don't think that this exact plan it doesn't work for me. And I'm hearing it doesn't work for a number of people, but I think the overall idea of this is a good idea. To transition. I think, some of the amenities of the coffee shop, the restaurant, that's been well done. So I have some confidence that this would be well done, but I just think it's not completely thought through in this, in what we're seeing here today, this iteration of it.
Okay. Anybody else? Commissioner Williams.
Can I just ask a question about the use of the PDD? So I know there are certain variables that we can adjust in the PDD to fit certain developments within within the PDD. One of them that I had a question on though was I see in the RM3, the minimum lot size overall has to be 0.8 acres for 10 units per, or 10 dwelling units per acre. This is 0.66. Is that a variable we're able to adjust in the PDD and allow the minimum lot size to be smaller?
Yes, we can adjust that.
We can. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Nellis.
Sure, why not? I guess I am generally in favor of the concept. I just kind of agree with some of the other thoughts about it seems like it might be a little bit too much. I'm also wondering, there was some reference to this being a traditional neighborhood design. Is it really? I mean, yeah, I guess it is, but it's not really walkable in my opinion. I mean, yes, there's a sidewalk there, but it's kind of removed from a lot of the rest of the village. So I think we can make some adjustments and make some movement towards that type of a development. I just don't think this is the right answer. And I'm sorry, I can't provide any more specific details other than, reducing the number of units potentially. So that's what I have to offer.
Commissioner Shadid, anything else? Yeah, you.
Oh, yes, that was better put than I did. I like that. I just don't know what to say about it, but I don't quite like what we see. I think I do agree with Jan Miller's comment, Trustee Miller, about it being owner occupied. I like that. I just I can't picture how this is going to fit in aesthetically.
Okay.
That's it.
My comments, I do think it works well as a buffer between business and residential to the south side. We haven't resolved that to the west side you do have a large tower, not a large tower, but a large box industrial building to the east side. So you've got a 30-foot wall there. So if this is 30 feet tall, you've got the same tall wall. One thought would be to reduce the number of units, take the garage, and instead of it being underneath, put it next to, split the units apart and put the garage between it. So you got a 2-story unit, 1-story, 2-story, 1-story. That will elongate the building, taking up more space, but it'll bring down the height of the building. You're not going to have as much green space, but maybe you take out a couple of units. So maybe it's not 6 units, maybe it's 4 or 5. The parking, if we're going to have a cross access agreement for shared parking, okay. If I'm living there, I'm going to tell my friends, go ahead and park in the restaurant parking lot, and that's fine. I see a lot of problems with that. What else? The access to the road, I believe, is going to be a problem. It's going to be a right in, right out only, is it not? Because there is a barrier. Is there a raised curb in that orange spot median? So one question I had was, do you reverse the units, put the garages, the driveway on the north side, put the front doors on the south side, and allow the driveway to connect to the parking lot so they can get through the parking lot out to the north and get in other directions instead of right in, right out?
Connect the 6 units with the parking?
Potentially. Otherwise, you're right in, right out only. And that is one of the complaints the residents, when the roundabout was put in, that was one of their complaints, is you've just locked me in. I can't go north from my house. So that was a complaint that they had. I don't have a problem with the parking lot. I think that was discussed many years ago. So we're coming to a fruition with that. I think the multifamily has got a ways to go before it's ready for approval, but I don't see a problem with multifamily there. I think it's just too dense right now.
What are your feelings about if there were 4 units in 2 different buildings with parking in between?
That's 2 duplexes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would work.
Where there might be a common parking garage in the middle, 2 units close to the pond, 2 units close to the front.
I think in that respect, one of the features of this type of development is you want to go from garage directly into the unit. If I put all the parking garages in the center, I have to go outside to get to the end units. So it would be garage, 2 units, garage, 2 units, garage. So I could always get into my unit. But I don't have depending on the look of that, I don't have a significant problem with that. It all depends on what it looks like, what ends up, how compact it's going to be, how tall it's going to be. Can we get a nicer looking, more harmonious with the area? Right now, it is a big wall.
Right.
Which does something for one aspect. It blocks the business from there, but only from one side. And then it's right up against, the driveway's right up against somebody else's house.
Well, did your idea settle the idea or not settle the idea? Because you had direct access from the garage into the unit. One would and one wouldn't, correct?
If I put all the garages in the center and the residential on the side, I have to go outside to get.
Yes, that's what, but I thought you tried to solve that, but I didn't hear it.
By taking half the garages and putting them on the ends.
Oh, all
Like a
right.
garage,
Okay.
2 units,
Yeah, that would
garage,
work.
2 units, garage in that format. Then it starts to look like, and that's where I'm fearful of it going, is one of these interstate adjacent, what we call the turtles. It's just it's an 8 family building with 4 garages on either corner. And it starts to look so we have to really get detailed on the aesthetics of it. So it doesn't turn into one of those.
So if it had a duplex with the 2 units in the interior, garages on the outside,
Mhm.
facing the pond
Sure.
with an interior driveway courtyard area that may be circular so they can drive around and maybe accommodate some guest parking as well. And then another 2-unit building with garage access from the interior facing outward.
Mhm.
That way you could narrow the drive width, I think,
To a 1-lane road.
to 1-lane road.
Drive.
And maybe even and skew the buildings closer to the south where the drive is on the north side. So the drive isn't right abutting the existing single-family residential.
True. That would work. That'd be better. Yeah, I think there's an option that'll work. I just don't think this is the right option yet. I think it's gonna take some,
Is 6 units too many?
I think so on, what did we just say, 0.6 acres?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's too much on 0.6 acres.
Real issue is to get all of it in there, though, to put 6 units in the garages and not be 3 stories high. That's almost impossible.
Yeah.
So that, it's more than just whether it's, can be 6 or not. I don't think it can be, but
So would you entertain a 4-unit proposal?
Personally, I'll entertain anything. Let's see what it looks like. If it looks too dense, if it feels too dense, then it's too dense. But if it looks spacious, it looks inviting, it doesn't look like we're crowding everybody in, then maybe it can work. But right now, this configuration looks compact. Looks cozy, a little too cozy.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Greg, have you explored other 6-unit options? Is the stormwater basin, that's a given, it has to go there?
Look at, if you look at bringing it up front, it presents a whole series of different challenges, obviously, the detention pond. So it was chosen to put it in back, and obviously there's a lot of, based on invert heights and everything else, there's a lot of work that went into figuring out exactly where and how to put that in to make everything work. As you know, from the engineering side of things. So yeah, that's, we've looked at a few different options. We felt 6 units was kind of an appropriate number based on a whole host of different things, including, quite honestly, the owners are just looking to sell, and they're trying to figure out is how to sell for a nominal price, which is what they feel is what's going in the market, what an average in the market. And so you have to amortize that out. This isn't, I know there's some comment made about us making, tons of money. We're working on very large development projects of, 75 million and up. Those you make money on. $1 million projects, $2 million projects, you generally don't make much money on because you spend so much time in administration. This is really less about making money and more about making space. It's really what it's about. So this isn't an economic driver. It's really here to try to enliven the Victory Center corridor. And to the point, Peter, of walkability, the goal is traditional neighborhood development. There has to be a chicken, the chicken before the egg, right? Something has to start here. There's a lot of other sites on this corridor that are yet to be developed, including, I know Everett across the street is itching to do still something with his that he's been looking at for 20 years. So you don't know in 5 or 10 years where this whole corridor is going to be and what's going to be here and what's not going to be here, right? We're trying to create walkability one step at a time, right? So that's what you do.
And does it really start with a larger plan of what do we want to do throughout the whole region? What, you showed it, the 2050 plan, which had yellow designation along 145 for 4 lots. Well, what's the status of those lots? Are they potential sites for redevelopment as well? I don't know. They front on 145. Maybe somebody should look at what to do with the whole area. So I know people are coming out with something to do on the northeast corner. So what are we doing there? So they're looking at master plan there.
Right. Unfortunately, unlike the the property in the northeast corner, the 60 acres, this 0.6 acres abuts existing development that we've got to deal with in terms of the transition.
Mhm. So it's going to take more thought. It's going to take another round, another revision. So we've got a motion to table. Do we have a second on that? We have no second. Second. We have a motion and a second to table. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Hey,
Opposed? Motion carries. Tabled till whenever they want to bring something back, right? Okay. All right, that will bring us on to the next item, which is accurate surveying and engineering applicant for Elwood E. and Susan A. Meisner, property owners at North 96, West 16248 County Line Road, and West 162, North 9632 Mayflower Drive. Applicant to create application to create a planned development district for the property with the underlying RM3 multifamily residential zoning district, and 2, a 2-lot certified survey map to divide the property. Public hearing and action. Director Etzloff. Zant, Assistant Zant.
Okay, thank you. So this property is located in the northeast corner of the County Line Road and Mayflower Drive intersection. The 0.62 acre property contains 2 separate multifamily dwellings. The zoning of the property is RM3. It's single-family residential zoning to the north. There's single-family residences on the south side of County Line Road in Menominee Falls, RM3 to the east, and then the RD2 district across Mayflower. Let's see here. The original farmhouse, which is located on the south side of the lot, has been converted into 3 units. According to documents available in village files, Mr. Meisner applied for and received permits to construct a duplex on the northern portion of the lot in 1976. The purpose for the proposal is to divide the property into 2 separate parcels so that each structure can be sold separately. So the proposed CSM will create 2 lots, one for each residential structure. Proposed lot 1 would contain 0.227 acres and the existing duplex and detached 2-car garage on the north side. The proposed lot 2 would contain 0.38 acres and the farmhouse, which has been converted to 3 units and a detached accessory building. In order to divide the parcel, a rezoning of the property from the current RM3 multiple family residential district to an RM3 planned development district is required in order to accommodate the existing structures and setbacks and to avoid creating nonconformities. The Public Works Department did the consulting surveyor did provide a memo with some technical corrections and a memo dated September 15th. These will need to be corrected before the village board takes action on the CSM. Washington County did also request a note to be added on the CSM that restricts access to Lot 2 from County Line Road. There's already an existing access off of Mayflower Drive for both properties. And that has been added as a condition of approval as well. The proposed lots do meet the density requirements for the RM3 district. So staff recommends approval of the rezoning from the property from the RM3 district to an RM3 planned development district overlay containing the following changes to the underlying RM3 district requirements and set forth in a formal condition and PDD resolution. Staff recommends approval of the certified survey map for 2 parcels. subject to 3 conditions. Thank you.
Notice is hereby given. Micah, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Village of Germantown Plan Commission at the Germantown Village Hall located at North 112 West 17001 Mequon Road, Germantown, Wisconsin, on the following date, Monday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m. or later. The purpose of said hearing is to hear all parties, their attorneys, or agents for or against the following application for: 1, create a planned development district for the property described below with an underlying RM3 multifamily residential zoning district pursuant to section 17.24 of the Village Zoning Code, and 2, a 2-lot certified survey map to divide the property. Applicant is Accurate Surveying and Engineering applicant for Elwood E. and Susan A. Meisner. Anybody wishing to come forward and speak on this? Anybody wishing to come forward? One more time. Yes, sir.
Hertz. I own the duplex across the street.
Okay.
I don't live in the duplex, so, but my residence is W148 and 993 Rimrock Road. So my question with Lot 2, by dividing that, can that be developed or expanded into additional units?
The southern lot, the Lot 2?
Yeah, Lot 2. Does that open that up?
Never say never. You can bring anything before the Plan Commission.
Yeah.
And try and
So
do something different.
People
But
owning that would have to.
yeah, they'd have to go through this process if they wanted to tear it down and redevelop it.
Okay. That's my only question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I'm Don Toma from Accurate Surveying, and I just have a couple questions, a couple comments, actually. The reason for the development and the division is the owners are doing some estate planning. So that's really their main goal of this, to be able to sell each unit or have one, or to, plan their estate. And the only other question I have is on the comments of the 3 conditions. One of the conditions or the comments was to put on the setbacks for this RM3 district. And I purposely didn't put them on because almost every building is non-compliant with the setbacks, and it actually confuses it on the map. I put on the top what the setbacks are, and I actually made the corrections, and I failed to put the hatch on the access part on Highway Q, which I will do. But I'm wondering if that's necessary. That's the only other comment I have. And if you would like me to pass the map around with them setback lines on that you can look at it, you certainly can look at it. It seems confusing.
So when we're creating the PDD, it'll be zoned a special plan development district. So we'll do when we have the exact setbacks of the existing structures, we'll have you put those on as the setback lines instead of the normal RM3. So we're just kind of in a transition time right now, if that makes sense.
Another comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Any further comments?
Yeah, I would just jump in. The intention is to simply accommodate the property owner's desire to divide the property into 2 pieces. So we're working the zoning code to the extent that we can to accommodate that request. It's not intended to allow for greater amount of development on either one of the properties.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll close the public hearing and ask the commission what they would like to do. Questions, motions, comments? Mr. Leshewski.
Oh, motion that we approve the rezoning of the property from the RM3 multifamily district to the RM3 multifamily district with a planned development district overlay, including all the language to follow.
Second.
A motion and a second to rezone the property from RM3 to RM3 PDD. Any comments, discussion? No comments? All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll move that we approve the proposed two-lot survey, CSM to divide the 0.62 acre parcel
With the
with the
three
three conditions.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for coming before us. Next on the agenda will be item C, Keller Inc., agent for Heinz Family Limited Partnership, property owner of KLH Industries, North 117 West 18388 Fulton Drive, site plan review for a 23,000 square foot industrial building addition. Director Etzloff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. KLH Industries is a precision machining company with 2 production facilities located here in Germantown. They specialize in custom parts per print for a variety of markets, including the aerospace, automotive, defense, electronics, food processing, and medical machining markets. There was a link provided in the staff report to the KLH Industries website. I'd encourage you to take a look at that and see what another one of our great companies in the village does, service to those markets. The existing facility on Fulton Drive is shown on the screen. This is just down the street. It's just east of Maple, down the road from their other facility on the south side of the road. The proposal is to add 23,053 square feet with an additional 3,621 square foot mezzanine addition for a total of 41,695 square feet of building area. It includes 3 loading docks on the east elevation, 2 driveways on Fulton. One of the existing 3 driveways will be removed. Exterior building materials, split-faced CMU exterior walls for the addition at a height of 28 feet with accent banding and vertical fluting to match the existing 18-foot wall height and materials. 32 additional parking stalls will be provided for a total of 70. There's additional landscaping, excuse me, in the form of foundation plantings and a couple of trees around the outer perimeter. They are removing a lot of asphalt around the outer perimeter and replacing it with lawn in large measure to bring down the total impervious area to under the 80% maximum allowed under the code. Exterior building mounting lighting will be provided at the dock and man door locations around the perimeter of the building. Couple of renderings showing the proposed addition and existing building. Staff recommends adding some additional street trees along Fulton Drive to meet the minimum requirements. I think 2 or 3 trees are required. The parking stall size that's proposed is less than the minimum required. That will need to be adjusted. The village engineer has some minor technical corrections that he's identified in a August 31 memo that would need to be addressed before the issuance of building permits. Staff's recommendation is to approve the proposed site development and building plans submitted by Keller Inc. for a 26,674 square foot industrial building addition to the KLH facility on Fulton Drive, subject to 5 conditions.
Thank you, Director Etzloff. Commissioners? Mr. Nellis.
Just a question on the parking stall size. Is that a requirement or is that a recommendation or a guideline? I thought we had talked about that in the past where that really isn't a requirement. Could you just clarify that?
Oddly enough, the parking stall size is a requirement of 180 square feet. The number of parking stalls is where we get into the guideline.
Okay. I knew that there was some question in that regard. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll take this opportunity to bring up, I think at least twice, maybe 3 times now since I've been here, we've tried to bring forward a recommendation to revise that parking stall size, and it never seems to get approved. But Outside of a planned development district, we've got the 180 square foot requirement.
Which I think makes sense. So thank you.
Anybody else?
I will approve or move that we approve the site development as shown
With the 5 conditions?
with the 5 conditions, yes.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second? A second. We have a motion and a second. All in, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for joining us this evening. Thank you for expanding your business in our town, village. All right, that will bring us to item D, Capstone Development, agent for CQ Wisconsin 2021 LLC property owner, Holy Hill Road, 2-lot certified survey map application. Director Etzloff.
Mike Faber's here on behalf of Capstone Development and CQ Wisconsin, the property owner, to get approval for a 2-lot CSM to split off the existing stormwater facility in the far southeast corner of the property. As part of the development agreement, the outlots containing the stormwater basins are to be conveyed to the village for future maintenance. Those ponds serve not just the site development, but also runoff from the Holy Hill Road construction project. This proposal is consistent with the previous master plan for the site. As shown on the screen, Phase 1 development is nearly complete. The building for Phase 1 is nearly complete and is expected to be occupied later this year. Is that correct, Mike?
Occupied this morning. Oh, okay. Fabulous.
Phase 2 development, we're expecting development plans in the near future. This proposal, again, is simply to split off the outlot in the far southeast corner of the site. 4.35 acre outlot containing an existing storm basin. Staff recommendation is to approve of the CSM, subject to one condition, that a couple of minor technical corrections be made before recording the CSM.
Thank you, Director Etzloff. Commissioners?
I'll move approval of the 2-lot certified survey map, subject to the one technical correction.
Have a motion. Second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And can you say who the tenant is that's going in there?
Yes, it's
Oh.
their client.
Oh,
Expansion.
wonderful. Wonderful. Great. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is ARC Cafe USA 001 LLC and Cave Enterprises, applicant and property owner of Burger King at N96 West 17655 County Line Road, sign review application. Assistant Planner Emily Zant.
Thank you. John Kaiser is here this evening on behalf of Cave Enterprises, and they're requesting approval of a new pylon sign for the Burger King restaurant located on County Line Road. Earlier this is the site location here. The existing zoning is B5 highway business. It's surrounded by commercial properties along the County Line Road corridor. So earlier this year, a sign company was hired to do maintenance on the existing side cabinet for the pylon sign that was there. During that work, it was discovered that the bolts that held the pole on the foundation were rusted, and it was a safety hazard, so the sign was taken down. In 1986, the Village of Germantown Board of Zoning Appeals approved a variance for this property to allow a pylon sign of up to 20 by 20 feet two-sided and a 50-foot pole for a total height of 70 feet. Although the existing sign was removed earlier this year, variances do run with the property and do not expire. Therefore, the property owner is permitted to reinstall up to a 20 by 20 sign at a height no taller than 70 feet. So what's being proposed is actually a 66-foot, 7-inch tall, 233 square foot per side, internally illuminated aluminum sign with a steel tube structure. The new sign is going to be located approximately 9 feet from the original location of the sign, 9 feet to the west. You can see, so 9 feet to the right of your screen here. Happy Return Day lilies would be planted around the base of the sign.
Can you go back to that plan for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that way. Okay.
Yeah, north is at the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So staff recommends approval of the new pylon sign for the Burger King restaurant located on County Line Road with a condition of electrical permits being obtained from Safe Built prior to installation of the electrical components.
Thank you. Commissioners? Comments, questions, motions? We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Wasn't too long, was it? Not even 2 hours. Okay, thank you. Okay, last item on the agenda is Paul Tegetz, applicant for VHKE LLC, property owner at North 105 West 14890 Blackbird Point, zoning permit application to install a fence in a drainage easement. Assistant Commissioner Emily Zant. No, Assistant Planner Emily Zant. No. Associate Planner. Gee, I'm gonna write one of these times.
Okay, so the applicant is proposing to install a 4-foot high vinyl fence within an existing private drainage and landscape easement on the residential lot located in Kinderberg Estates. The subject property is located directly south of Kinderberg Park. You can see on the aerial image here, there is a pedestrian path that connects the subdivision on the east side of the property. The zoning is RS4, single-family residential. So as shown here in green, there's a 35-foot wide private drainage and landscape easement along the north or rear property line. The applicant is proposing to install a fence which would be located in the side and rear yards to enclose the backyard of the property. I'm going to extend along the west lot line, along the north lot line, and then along the west edge of that pedestrian access easement that is that does go 10 feet onto the subject property. So the fence would be 4-foot high white vinyl rail and post fence, and it would be installed 2 inches off the ground. This is the fence, the style of fence that's required in Kinderberg Estates. So as you may recall, the code provides for the Plan Commission to allow fences in drainage easements with evidence that the proposed location, design, materials of the proposed fence will not interfere with drainage flow within the easement. And in the case of a subdivision, that the homeowners association does consent to the encroachment. The vinyl rail and post style fence will not interfere with the drainage flow and would be installed approximately 2 inches above grade. The Kinderberg Estates Architectural Control Committee did approve the proposed fenced installation in the private drainage easement as well. So staff recommends approval of the zoning permit application to install the 4-foot vinyl fence within the 35-foot wide private drainage easement along the rear lot line of the property at on Blackbird Point, subject to 2 conditions. It shall be the responsibility of the homeowner to maintain the free flow of water within the private drainage easement at all times, and a fence permit is required from the Building Inspection Department.
Thank you. Commissioners?
I had only one question. We have this every once in a while where we have the fence where the homeowner is responsible for the flow of water or the continued flow of water. Do we ever have a problem? Excuse me, do we ever have a problem with that or? I mean, we bring it up all the time, but I guess I've never heard of any.
We haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't.
I thought we had one, at least one.
Well, we've had concerns, I mean, after the fence went in?
Yeah.
Oh,
Only one.
I'm not aware of that.
They didn't rake their leaves, plugged up under the fence.
So then what did we do as a village?
Rake their leaves.
Okay, we did do that.
Yes, we did.
More power to you. That's
Somebody
good.
did.
Well, then I will approve, we'll make a motion that we approve the zoning permit application as documented with the 2 conditions shown.
Motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Mr. Nellis.
Do we have any sort of exhibits or pictures of the drainage easement and how the fence is going to be situated in that drainage easement other than these plan views here?
Is it top of the hill, bottom of the hill?
That's I'm trying to figure out, yes.
Because looking at the aerial, it looks like on the aerial, you'd be at the top of the hill. But yeah, see, what's on our paperwork doesn't show it there.
Keep in mind that along the north side of this subdivision and this lot is that large, I believe it's 40-foot wide drainage easement
Right.
that runs through the park.
Right.
That's a public drainage easement for the village.
Right.
Below that and below this white line that denotes the rear property line, there is an additional 35 feet of a landscape and drainage easement that is private within the subdivision. And in that particular location, as you can see where the trees were planted, it's part of their landscape buffer that they're to provide to the park to the north. We don't have a topography map, do we? The drainage generally from this lot along the back is actually supposed to drain to the right, to the east, to a storm basin that's within the subdivision on the backside of the lot, just to the right of this one. You can sort of see it, the tip of that storm basin. So the fence, I guess I can't tell you whether it's at the high point or the low point of the slope.
The
Is that the-
property owner is, or the future property owner is with us online. Paul, did you have anything to add regarding where the fence is in terms of the topography?
Yeah, hello. I believe it's in front of that. I mean, you are correct. There is that large public drainage easement, and then the secondary drainage easement that goes towards that retention pond. I believe it would be in front of that.
So is there like a high point in between those 2 drainage easements?
Correct. There's a high point.
Yeah, they put if I can add to that, what I'm seeing online here is the sidewalk that goes through has a culvert that goes under it. You see that at the top there? You can see the inlet and the outlet. That is the low point right there. That white thing on the left side is the left side. That thing right there looks to be the inlet. That would be the low point of the creek.
So then that easement rises to meet the north property line where the fence is going to be, and then it drops off again to provide for drainage to the detention basin?
I believe so.
Yeah, there's a slight swale.
Yeah. Not as dramatic as the parks swale, but
Right.
a swale.
So realistically, the points of concern would be the north-south
Yes.
sides of the fence.
Correct. Yep. Okay, that answers my question.
Any further discussion?
Well, the only thing I could think of was whether or not it was appropriate to have the fence on, I know you're, just what you're talking about, is that berm there, like, you see where it's at, past the trees that are planted there?
Yeah, that would be another high point. There'd be a low point just south of that.
So I guess we're kind of setting a precedent in the neighborhood, if anybody else wants to fence in, that they can move that across what must be an easement, correct?
It's in the drainage landscape easement, but it's on their property.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point. I think early on, if you recall the discussion about the subdivision, there were neighbors on the north side of the park who were commenting that they would be able to see the backsides of these homes across the park, and there should be some sort of buffer, a landscape buffer.
And that was
And
the thought?
that resulted in the requirement for these trees to be planted along that north property line in a landscaped easement. Whether or not fencing that in impacts that or adds to it, frankly, I guess that's something you might want to consider.
I would point out that this is just a 4-foot high fence with that's partial openings. It's not like a 6-foot privacy fence or anything like that.
Mr. Wojciechowski.
I would just add, isn't this like the headwaters of the Jefferson Ditch? So it starts to become a large waterway, and when we get a large rain, there's a ton of water going down that drainage ditch right back there. So you all know I'm not in favor of putting fences and drainage easements ever. I just think that there's a day and time will come where we're going to regret it, because it's an event that just happens. You can't plan for it. You can't go out there and get the leaves. It just rained 10 inches last night or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's too late. So anyhow, I don't know why we want to put a fence all the way back, but.
Well, it's commented is somewhere, isn't it? One of your documents there, don't you say, if the plan commission approves, this was a second location for the fence? Can't, whatever page that was on.
Yeah, that was the applicant, and that was their plan for the fencing. That's what they submitted.
There's an
On the
alternative.
other side of that, he or she probably takes care of that property, right? They mow it.
All the way to the property line, all the way to the
Yeah,
swale
so
of
if
the
you
main.
make them put the fence on the other side of the easement, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
They could put it farther into their
Well, then
property.
they've got to go around somewhere to be able to mow that, which is not, that's not good either. But we'll put a gate in there, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't answer my question. I just brought it up.
I recognize that the main swale is the deeper swale. The southern swale is just for these properties. It's not the main, it's not that is not the headwaters of the Jefferson Ditch.
It is, I'm sorry, right here, right?
The main ditch that comes along here is the headwaters. The secondary ditch that comes along here is just an internal conveyance to stormwater for the site.
So the drainage easement ends at that white line?
Yes, one of them does, yes.
Yeah, well, I guess again, I'm always of the sense of, then there shouldn't be a drainage easement there if we're gonna put a fence there. Either way, somebody put a drainage easement there for a reason. That's how I look at it.
Well, wait a minute. Let me ask this question again. See where the trees are there? There's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them behind this house.
Yes,
Is that a low area or a high area? It looks like it's a high area.
that's on the high area. Then there's a
Right.
low, you see that
No.
second darker line to the south,
Right.
south of those trees?
Right,
That, between the trees and that line is another swale.
Okay.
Not as deep, just for the neighborhood to get their water around. But the upper one is the beginning of the Jefferson Ditch.
You know, I don't know as I would cause this not to happen, but it looks like this is one of the more difficult ones we've looked at.
Can we ask is the owner responsible for maintaining the landscape easement?
If they're putting a fence on it, yes. If they're fencing it in, yes.
And if they don't?
They don't maintain it.
I'm just wondering if it's common area. It's treated like the association maintains the.
Isn't he online?
Paul, you still
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I'm still here. No, it would fall under my responsibility regardless if the fence is in front of it or behind it.
Once you fence it in, it's yours. And you can't fence it in unless it is yours.
Well, no. Even so, even if we don't get approval to go into the easement, that area behind there that's still on my property line, I still have to take care of that and maintain it.
Yeah.
It doesn't fall under the association.
And the association has already approved this. They're the ones that are going to continue to look at it and continue to deal with it.
Correct.
So, further discussion?
I guess
Mr. Nelson.
I recognize, Tony, your concern and your previous concerns. I'm just wondering, in this particular case, if the lot line, if the lot drains off to the north, what are the risks that could occur if there's some sort of blockage? It seems to be pretty minimal. I guess I'm not too concerned about that. So I guess I'm okay with, I'll vote to approve this, so.
Further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. That brings us to the end of our fabulous meeting tonight. And any announcements from anybody? And I'll call this meeting adjourned at 8:35. Thank you for attending. Thank you for watching.
I just want you to know, I carefully watched that Burger King sign to make sure it wasn't attached to the roof, because I wouldn't want to not support you. Or I'd want to make a big issue about it, one or the other.
Did you see any bolts through the roof?
If I did have a question on the Burger King sign, I mean, not that I wanted to ask, but so the approval for that 70-foot sign